Hello guys and welcome back to Planet 40k Tyranids. Now we've got our third review of 10th edition today, and this time we're doing it with the points cost because that was released on Friday, that's just gone, and I'm filming this on the weekend just after that Friday. So we're going to be talking about one of the data sheets, one of the characters within the Tyranids index, and that's going to be Old One-Eye. So it's the Carnifex character, and we're going to be talking about, just like before, datasheet, index rules, the unit combos, enhancements, stratagems, tactics, how to score with it, and the pros and cons of Old One-Eye. Now of course guys, before getting into today's video, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We're going to be doing all the reviews from the index, as well as some other videos such as tier lists and top 5s, top 10 kind of things, as well as rating all the stratagems and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, get involved in that by subscribing down below. Right, let's get on to the datasheet. So as always, we're going to start on the flip reverse side of the data card, and I'm going to give you the points straight up front, and it's 140 points for Old One-Eye, which I think is so cheap. I mean, it used to be 250 points for this guy, so 110 points cheaper. That's crazy, isn't it, really? That's crazy. I mean, Carnifex is this edition on 125, so for only 15 more points, you can get a character. I think that's pretty good value, to be honest with you. But on the back side of this data card, we've got Old One-Eye, which is an epic hero. He's got the Old One-Eye's claws and talons, and he can go with Carnifexes because he's got that leader keyword. So he's a monster, character, epic hero, very important for enhancements, or the lack of enhancements due to him being an epic hero. And of course, Great Devourer, Old One-Eye. Right, let's flip over to the front side, the juicy stuff, and let's break this down. So starting with the actual stat line, movement of 8 inches, toughness 9, that has increased from toughness 7, gone up by 2. It's not gone up a lot, but at least standard, even power fists that were strength 8, I believe, even they're going to wound on a 5+, so that does assist quite a fair bit there. A 2+ armor save, 9 wounds, leadership 8+. Now I've said this in the Morlock video, I don't quite like the 8+ leadership. Now of course, if he's within Synapse, that can all be different, we'll get onto that in a moment. But yeah, not a fan of that. And objective control is 3, which is the new one. Only 3, but that's not his game, that's okay. Let's move to the right hand side of the abilities, well, onto the abilities. The core rule he's got is Feel No Pain 5+, which used to be his warlord trait, so you used to have to spend a command point to get that. He just gets it naturally. Every single wound on a 5+, you just deny it. So a third of a chance of saying, nope, not happening. Lovely. The leader keyword, we've already kind of mentioned that with the Carnifexes. He can go into a unit of up to 2 Carnifexes. Again, we'll talk about that in the unit synergy section. Now, faction keyword, of course, Synapse, but he doesn't actually have the Synapse keyword in his own keyword. So he's got the ability, just not the keyword. So therefore, he's not going to be within his own Synapse because he doesn't have it. He needs to get a Synapse model to keep him within Synapse to make use of his ability. And as for the unique abilities, Alpha Leader. So while he's leading a unit of Carnifexes, they can re-roll the hit rolls, and that will of course include himself because he'll be in that unit. Now it previously was a +1 to the hit roll, it's now just re-roll all the hit rolls. That's quite nice, and that could be in melee and at range as well. It doesn't necessarily just have to be in melee, it could be either. So yeah, not a bad ability. And Unstoppable Monster is the second unique ability here. At the start of each player's command phase, there, the model regains D3 wounds. I think that's a pretty decent ability. The fact that you're doing it in your opponent's command phase as well as yours, it feels very Necron-like with the resurrection orbs that they've got now. I like that a lot. Now unfortunately he's not got the exoskeleton anymore, so there's no -1 to damage, there's no berserk rampage, that's also gone. So you're getting more, I think there's more attacks on the charge, wasn't it? And the death throws is gone as well. He doesn't explode, there's no deadly demise here. Sometimes that was good, but he was more of an aggressive unit in Ninth, so therefore he was likely going to explode onto enemy units rather than your own. But it's gone, doesn't matter. Moving over to the left side of the data card, we've got the melee weapons, I suppose. There's 2 melee weapons. Well, it's 1 melee weapon with 2 different profiles. So let's have a check about what these are. So we've got the strike profile and the sweep profile. They're 2 completely different ones. You have to select it before you start attacking with it. And this is what the strike profile does. So you get 6 attacks, weapon skill 3+, strength 14. It used to be only strength 10. It's now strength 14. So even going up against my Necron Monolith, you're winning on a 4+. Pretty good. -3 AP, and the damage is D6+1. Now the damage, slightly janky, not going to lie. The +1 does help it somewhat. But when you've got 6 attacks, a flat 6, weapon skill 3+, and you're re-rolling your hit rolls, don't forget, you're likely going to be getting most of them anyway. And yeah, then your strength 14, that's going to virtually wound anything, isn't it? It's going to do a lot of work. And D6 plus 1, I like that a lot. Now, as for the sweep profile, this is the anti-infantry kind of profile. You now get double the amount of attacks, which is 12. That was as it was anyway. Weapon skill used to be 2+, it's now a 3+, so you are hitting on a worse weapon skill. But again, you're re-rolling everything, so it's not too bad. Strength of 6, -1 AP and 1 damage, so that hasn't changed. That's your anti-infantry weapon. You're wounding likely on a 3+ or a 2+ against the squishier targets. -1 AP is normally all you need, unless it's going against power armor, then it's not quite enough. And damage 1 against power armor again, not quite enough, but against, you know, bugs and little things like that, it's doing good work. It's doing good work. Guardians as well, I suppose. So yeah, it's not got any ranged attacks, but I'm quite happy with the flexibility of the weapon. Let's move on to the index rules, I suppose. So index rules, of course, Tyranids have got the Synapse index rule. Now this is not a Synapse monster, so therefore he doesn't apply Synapse to himself. He needs to be within Synapse range of another Synapse creature within 6 inches in order to use the 3 dice for Battle Shock test instead of 2. Now bearing in mind that his leadership was 8+, if he was to take a Battle Shock test, it's not going to be good. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 is all you can get to succeed, unless you've got 3 dice if you're within Synapse. So you want to kind of get him in Synapse, but because he's so aggressive, you're going to have to take an aggressive Synapse character, you know, not too far away from him in order to do that. Not the best, you know, not the easiest thing to do. But yeah, that's what you're going to have to do. Unless you want to just, you know, unless you don't care so much about the stratagems or objective control. It's only 4 anyway, but the Carnifexes as well, it's all going to add up, isn't it? Now, it's not got Shadow in the Warp, so we don't really need to discuss that. And as for the detachment rule from the Invasion of Bleach, you've got the Hyper Adaptation with the 3 options. All 3 are going to be pretty good, and you're going to select them before you actually start the first battle round. So you look at your opponent's army and you say, right, you're quite infantry heavy, I'll take Swarming Instincts. Or you have got a lot of characters, I'll go with High Predators. All depends on what your opponent brings. And the fact that he's got that flexible melee weapon means you can also adapt to this hyper adaptation. So I think the detachment rule works quite nicely with Old One-Eye and the Carnifexes as well, I guess. Speaking of Carnifexes, let's move into the unit combos. Of course, Carnifexes are the unit combo to talk about here, especially with their ability, which is Blistering Assault. Now bear in mind that the Old One-Eye has the leader ability, so he will be joining this unit and become effectively a new unit with the Carnifexes. 2 Carnifexes and Old One-Eye, the 3 of them will be an attached unit. So each time an enemy unit is selected to shoot, after it is shot, if any models in this unit has lost 1 or more wounds as a result of those attacks, this unit can make a Blistering Assault move. To do so, roll 1d6, adding 2 to the result. Each model in the unit can make a move up to the distance of the inches. So if you've got, say, a 3, it'll be 3 plus 2, that's 5 inches that you can move in your opponent's shooting phase. Now you must move towards the enemy unit that's just shot you. No, in fact, let me take that back. The closest enemy unit is not the one that shot you. So the closest enemy unit, you must go towards them, almost like consolidation moves. And you can actually move within engagement range, which is quite cool. Because, well, for 2 reasons. First of all, their fight phase is coming up in the next phase. Second of all, they're not going to be classed as charging you because there wasn't a charge. You've not been classed as charging them, but who cares? Defenders fight first after charge moves, after the fight first ability has happened, right? So you can get your Carnifex and your Old One-Eye to fight first, slam them out, and they're done. I mean, also, it's not just about getting into engagement range, just making ground in your opponent's turn. It could be onto an objective so that when your command phase comes around, you're scoring points. There's lots of different things that you could do with that. So I quite like that ability, and the Old One-Eye will be a part of that unit to get that ability. Now, unfortunately, Old One-Eye cannot join Screamer Killers because they're not classed as Carnifexes anymore. So it's only literally the Carnifex unit with the 2 models in. And yeah, in terms of more synergy, I mean, those Carnifexes, they're equipped with melee weapons as well as ranged weapons. Whatever you want to use, you can customize Carnifexes to literally whatever kind of monster you want, can't you? So if you want them to be a stay back and shoot kind of unit, and Old One-Eye just buffing the hit rolls and then defending them in melee, I suppose, you can do that. Or if you want to rampage all 3 of them up the battlefield, you've also got the option. Now, other pieces of synergy, you've got the Hive Tyrant with Will of the Hive Mind, and you're selecting a Tyranid unit within 12 inches to effectively use a stratagem for 0 command points. Doesn't matter what the cost of the stratagem is, it could be 2, it could be anything. it's going to be 0. Even if you've already used it that phase, you can still use it. I think that's going to be a super powerful ability this edition, because command points is, you're not getting many of them. So I think those kind of abilities are going to be very useful. Venomthrope's next for the Foul Spores, which is an aura within 6 inches to gain the benefits of cover. Now, it's not going to include monsters for the stealth ability on top of that, but, that's okay. You still get the benefits of cover, +1 to your armor save. If there was any AP, that's going to assist with that. The Neuro Tyrant for the Synaptic Relay Psychic ability, that's going to give synapse to units that are within 12 inches rather than 6 inches. So again, that's going to keep that range of the synapse going a little bit better, because these guys are going to start tumbling forward anyway. So that Neuro Tyrant could keep that chain active with synapse. And if you want to take it even further, you've got the Neuro Gaunts, which will effectively have synapse, and you can kind of add them along to kind of chain up your synapse link range. Let's move into enhancements. Now, of course, the epic heroes in this edition cannot take enhancements, and One Eye is an epic hero, he cannot take them. However, there is one enhancement that can be taken by a different character that isn't an epic hero within your list, and that enhancement is Alien Cunning. So let's say you've, for example, got a Hive Tyrant with Alien Cunning. After both players have deployed their armies, select up to 3 Tyranid units from your army and redeploy them. You can put them also into strategic reserves if you wanted to, but let's take, for example, you're playing, I don't know what you call them, is it Dawn of War style with the long horizontal sort of deployment maps? If you put your Carnifexes and One Eye on the left side of the map, on the left flank, your opponent is now going to start, deploying to counter that. Maybe they're putting their better stuff on the other side of the deployment zone, just to keep them away from him. And if you've got Alien Cunning, you can redeploy. You can go, okay, well, you counter-deploy me, but I'm now going to change my side up, and everything you've done, it's not that great anymore. So that's something you could do with a different character and use on your One Eye's unit. Stratagems of note. Now, I don't find many of the stratagems that useful for One Eye. You might not agree with that. I just think they're better served on other units, but I'll talk about one of them anyway. In fact, I've got 2. One from the core rulebook. The first one from the Tyranids index is Overrun. In the fight phase, once you've consolidated, you can consolidate 6 inches rather than 3. Yeah, that's cool. And if you're within synapse range and not within engagement range, you can just make a normal move instead of doing your consolidation move. So you're just gaining ground for a command point. Yeah, it's something, I guess it's something. But the one I really wanted to talk about is from the core rulebook, which is Epic Challenge. Now, if your unit catches out a character unit or a bodyguard unit, an attached unit, an enemy unit that has a character in it. So for example, you're playing against my Necrons and I've got 20 warriors and an overlord. You can get your One Eye and the Carnifexes to charge them, pop the stratagem for 1 command point, Epic Challenge. All your One Eye's attacks are now going to go straight onto the overlord, because you're going to gain the precision ability. And with those attacks, what have we got again? Let's just remind ourselves. With the strike ability, 6 attacks, hitting on 3s, re-rolling, strength 14, -3 AP, and the damage is d6+1, all against my Overlord. That's pretty nasty. You're going to take away all the buffs, and Necrons in particularly have the detachment ability of a +1 to the hit roll if a character is within the unit. So a little bit of information for you Tyranid players there. But yeah, that's going to be massively good, just going up against any characters really. Epic Challenge with characters. I like it. So tactically speaking, in terms of battlefield role as well, what's your One Eye going to be doing, as well as those Carnifexes? It depends on the way you kit out the Carnifexes really. It's all about the Carnifexes, because he's going to be going with that unit. If you're going melee, then you're going to just treat them like a bowling alley. You just bowl One Eye and the 2 Carnifexes down the alley, straight at your opponent. Whether it's a first wave, whether it's a second wave, you just throw them at your opponent and let them deal with it. I mean, they're scary. It could be 3 monsters there, lots of melee attacks, potentially there's some range attacks in there, re-rolling the hit rolls. It's just nasty, and they're very difficult to get rid of. I quite like the idea of that. Like I said, there could be a first wave, there could also be a second wave. If you've got faster units, they could be front and centre, and then these guys can come out and just mop up anything that's left over, and then be stationary in your opponent's area. I wouldn't worry so much about gaining objectives. That's for other units. Let your Gaunts do that kind of stuff. These guys need to be just, like I said, bowling things down. Now, if you're going ranged with your Carnifexes and maybe you want to park in the no man's land, you don't want to go too much. You can go further than that, I suppose, because you've got the defense capability with your melee attacks. But if you are kitted out to fire, then the likelihood is you don't need to go much further than that. The centre of the actual deployment, in terms of the map, and your opponent's got to come to you. I mean, things that will help in that situation, again, it would be the Venom Thropes, getting the light cover and stuff like that. But yeah, it all depends on how you kit out your Carnifexes. Now, in terms of scoring, until I've seen all the secondary objectives, I can't fully help you with this one because, in fact, 10th edition has completely changed, hasn't it? You can have those sticky secondary objectives, or you can have the random ones with the cards. It's a little bit like Tempest of War now, isn't it? But if you were to try and do a playstyle around certain objectives, anything that relates to murdering models, you're gonna score them pretty well with these kind of units, with the old One-Eye and Carnifexes. That's their game. They're just murdering stuff. They're not out to do, deploy teleport homers and all that kind of jazz. I don't think they can do that anyway, but they're not out to do that kind of stuff. They're out to literally destroy and remove stuff. That's their game. So anything that relates to that, that's for them. Right, so let's summarise old One-Eye with the pros and cons. Starting off with the pros, of course. So it's a big scary monster, especially with the Carnifexes. They're ultra scary. It's got the 5+ feel no pain save. Now, when it's with a unit of Carnifexes, do you really need it? I mean, yes, against precision attacks, I suppose, or epic challenges. But you don't really need it necessarily very early on. But when those Carnifexes do go, then yeah, he will be on his own. And that feel no pain save will come in clutch. He's granted rerolls to the hit rolls for the unit, including himself. Very nice. He's got that flexible melee weapon, also very handy. He's getting wounds back very easily, not just your command phase, but your opponent's command phase as well. I think that's pretty dirty, to be honest with you. Your opponent just thinks, yep, I've nearly got this guy, I'm going to get into the shooting phase and take him out, and you just go, wait, I'm bringing some more wounds back first. I like that. And this edition, you're buffing 2 Carnifexes rather than just one model like it was in 9th edition. Quite like that as well. And it's a lot cheaper than it was in 9th edition. It's 150, what was it? I can't remember now. It was 140 points. Whereas it was 250 points. So 110 points has come off the old One-Eye. I like that. As for the cons, it can be shot into engagement range because it's a monster. That's new for 10th edition, if you weren't aware of that. Leadership 8+. Yeah, that's not great. It needs to be within Synapse in order to sort of negate that. And number 3 of this bullet point here is there is no Synapse. He hasn't got Synapse, so he needs to find a way of being within Synapse. It's got no range attacks. Yeah, he's never really had range attacks. That's not a problem, but it is a con. He can't take enhancements because he's an epic hero. It's okay. It's okay. It's not the worst thing in the world. And finally, he's lost his exoskeleton, which was the -1 to damage from 9th edition. Not necessarily a major con because this is 10th edition, but if you are used to playing it like that with the -1 damage, that's now no longer a thing. So yeah, overall, I quite like old One-Eye. I like the reroll buff. I think that's a pretty good bonus for 2 other monsters within the unit, including himself as well. So that's 3 monsters are basically getting all, rerolled to the hit rolls. The flexible weapon's pretty good. Feel no pain save is also pretty good. Gaining wounds back, I like that as well. Now, once I start doing all the reviews for all the other characters, I will kind of work out where this guy sits in sort of the tier system. At the moment, I'm not sure. I haven't really played enough. Well, I haven't played any yet, so I can't really say I have. Once I start playing, I can kind of work out roughly where he does actually sit. Then we'll do some sort of tier list video. But as for your rating, guys, what would you put? Let me know in the comments down below. Rating out of 5, what would you give it? I'm not going to give you mine just yet. Again, I don't know. But I'm quite happy with the datasheet. But yeah, once we start seeing the other characters, we'll get a better idea. So guys, that is it from me today. Remember to subscribe on your exits. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next one.